Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. We are talking about the news that Premier League fixtures are possibly back under consideration to be played outside of England and maybe even outside of Europe completely in the near future. This news is allegedly back. It has reared its head again. Allegedly, this is back under consideration and a talking point of discussion amongst many Premier League officials that have said that this is back on the radar once more and is being looked at as a real possibility going forward for the league. We're going to be talking more about this story. We're going to be talking more about this topic. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's go back to talking about the possibility of Premier League fixtures being played outside of England and outside of Europe going forward. So what really reignited the talking point of discussion within this topic is a tweet by David Ornstein, who stated, "Exclusive competitive games abroad back on Premier League radar, only consultation, so nothing agreed and would be years away, but under consideration as part of Premier League plan for international growth. First step would be enhanced overseas pre-season tournament." Now, like it mentions in the tweet, and like we all kind of remember and know, this isn't the first time that Premier League games, or even English domestic cup games for that matter, have been considered as being played outside of England. This has been brought up before, but talk had seemingly been extinguished until now. The main goal appears to be international growth, which is what they stated there, into England's top tier division. But I think we all kind of realise that once again, surprise, surprise, this is mainly a money factor. This is mainly a money issue, and it's just about building up as much money as you can and getting as much out of this as possible. And that the reasoning of international growth is just some incredible spin being put onto this. That's seemingly being put out there as the main reason going ahead. And if I remember correctly, other leagues too have planned on doing this. Mainly the Spanish league, they've also planned on trying to play some of their league games or even some of their cup games outside of Spain, outside of Europe entirely, mainly like Qatari kind of area, Middle East kind of area where all the big money is, with this thing kind of happening to them. And the Premier League have allegedly and seemingly been toying with the idea of doing this themselves, but have never really followed through on it. But like I say, once again, the talk of it has once again reared its head, and it might be a genuine possibility going forward. It wasn't so long ago that we thought we had gotten rid of the likes of a European Super League, which essentially had a very similar plan, but rather than see Europe's top elite clubs battle it out week after week, you know, the likes of Liverpool versus Bayern Munich, say, playing in Los Angeles, or Real Madrid versus Manchester United in the middle of China or somewhere, you'll instead get the likes of Crystal Palace versus Burnley in Tokyo, or something similar to that effect, it seems. And besides that, you take teams abroad, you take games abroad, you'll lose fans over here in this country. Fans are already angry at the money-grabbing ways that football's authority figures seem to operate within the sport itself. This may push some over the edge to a point where football clubs lose who they truly are. You lose the English football experience that travelling fans would also get over here as well, should they of course travel to games over here. And fans in this country will likely lose interest and lose their belief or however you want to put it, in England's footballing authorities, like I mentioned. That's just in my opinion. And it is weird to think that the Premier League of all leagues needs to branch its way outside of England, outside of Europe, to raise awareness of arguably one of the, or if not the biggest league in the world. Because you don't see it happening the other way around. You don't see the oil-rich Qatar or the Chinese Super Leagues or anything like that asking to be playing abroad from their own country to raise awareness and interest in their own brand of football. You don't see them coming over to Europe to try and raise awareness for their brand of football. We like to brag in England that we have the best league in the world, and there's definitely an argument to be made there that that is the case. We have some of the most watched football globally around the world, one of, if not the most expensive league in world football, and the Premier League is still very notorious despite the fact that we haven't yet branched outside of England, outside of Europe to play games abroad. On top of that as well, we have some of the world's best clubs. Them clubs have obviously shaped football over the years and are well known globally with some of the most incredible fan bases that are, again, around the world. There are plenty of big fan bases for the England's biggest clubs around the world. We have some of football's best players, again, from all around the world. We have players from all different backgrounds and all different countries, ethnicities and religions, so on and so forth, from all around the world that of course bring a lot of eyes, not just from their own country but from their own continent as well, not just to them but also to the club that they're playing for and also to the Premier League itself. You think of players like Mohamed Salah of Egypt. He brings probably a large Egyptian fan base to not just him but to Liverpool as well. You think of Heung-min Son of Tottenham. South Korea probably has a lot of eyes on the Premier League, on Tottenham, on Son himself, and so on and so forth, and all these other players that are like this. So, you know, it is a notorious league elsewhere, not just from the fan bases, the clubs, but also from the players' point of view as well. And you think about the players, they usually do name drop some of England's biggest clubs as clubs they grew up watching when they were younger, as to what got them into football, what kept them in football, and so on and so forth. So if this is to happen, you have to assume that if there is to be a benefit to these Premier League clubs, it would be the sort of lesser known clubs of the Premier League to even like a high championship level, which I guess wouldn't be a bad thing for those kind of clubs. But would it really matter to fans abroad about these kind of clubs? The likes of your Norwiches, your Crystal Palaces, your Burnleys, for example, when in comparison to the top clubs in England, your Liverpools, your Manchester Uniteds, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, so on and so forth? I don't think so. Not only that, right, but what about looking after your homegrown fans first? What about looking after your domestic fans first? Some of the ticket prices for one-off games are expensive alone, let alone for multiple games across a season, or even at a season ticket price in general. Add on top of that the expenses that you're paying on a single match day, your travel costs, your food and drink costs, and so on and so forth. It all totals up that you're forking out a lot of money on one single day, let alone across multiple days or even across an entire season. If this whole thing goes ahead, fans will obviously be paying more for a plane ticket to the middle of, say, Ghana, South Korea, or India, or wherever it may be, somewhere random like that. And for the fans who can't afford to go and obviously watch their team in person week in, week out, they of course have the comfort of watching it from their own homes. But then again, broadcasting prices for BT and Sky in particular in this country are already big enough. And not only that, but it's even more incredibly frustrating when they're asking for a lot of money, but you don't get the full range of Premier League games. Saturday's 3 o'clock kickoffs are never shown on TV, and you have to wait for a highlights package once the game is over to watch the game, or watch, the highlights of the game, because there are highlights packages, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And the games that are chosen are obviously chosen by the broadcasters and so on and so forth. So it's like, there could be a bit of bias towards what will pull in the viewing figures. Fans of Burnley, say, probably might not get on the TV as much as, say, the fans of Liverpool or Manchester United. It does seem pretty much unfair. And of course, again, it goes a long way to explaining why the financial side of the game is the way that it is. And of course, that goes with TV broadcasting and everything in between that as well. So maybe try and get that in check. Try and be on board with your domestic fans before you start catering to the needs of international fans. Look, it's important to state here that the bottom line as of right now is that this is all just talk. As David Ornstein said, this is all just talk. There's nothing certain, there's nothing concrete regarding these plans. But it is a little bit worrying that this topic has once again risen like a phoenix from the ashes after some time ago talk of this, the original talk of this, seemed to die off pretty quickly. By all means, have your pre-season tours, have your pre-season tournaments, whatever it may be, in different countries. I encourage that. I think it's fine to do that. But leave the Premier League games alone. Leave the games that matter alone. Leave them in the countries where they originate. This is going to annoy a majority of fans, in my opinion, and will only seemingly benefit those in power to authorize these actions in terms of financial gain. Leave the Premier League games alone. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this news story? What do you make of Premier League games possibly being played abroad in the future? Outside of England, outside of Europe, however it may be. I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comments section, as I'm sure it will all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.